What does God need from us to get there? What does He need from us? I mean, I talk to, our church is obviously in a time of transition. Shane, I keep trying not to talk about you, man, because I don't want to be a baby. But let me tell you, I love this man with all my heart. I love his family. And it's hard that they're leaving, and I know that. But God has told us, man, we got to move forward. We got to be in progress. God's got that leader in store, man. It's going to happen. I only know one thing about the new worship leader. It's not going to be me. That's all I know at this point, okay? Y'all be saying, man, I won't take offense to it. It's okay. I understand. But at the end of the day, I know that we're going to move forward, and God's still going to do great things, and the legacy that Shane has left and what he's brought to Lifespring, it will never, ever, ever be forgotten. But let me tell you, when I talk to kind of like Saeed and different ones, and I'm just like, hey, here's where we're going to move forward. God put this on my heart, and this applies to our entire church in any situation you face in life. God showed me this in His Word and Scriptures, just like Abraham and we're His disciples. But what did Jesus need when He came to earth to go help Him spread that Word? What was He looking for? He was looking for people that were willing and able to follow Him. Church, if we would be willing, and God has made us able to do anything He calls us to do, if we would just have those two things down and be willing and able to be who God calls us to be, to go where God calls us to go, to do what He calls us to do, that's all He needs. He needs our hearts. He needs our souls. He needs everything in us just to say, Lord, I'm willing and I'm able. Use me. Take me. Guide me. Lead me. It's a work in progress. There's going to be some bumps in the road. Freedom does not come cheaply. Amen? We all know that. It came at a price. But this ultimate price, this ultimate inheritance, this ultimate life that God has laid everything out for us to have, it also came at a price by sending His Son. And because He did that, God gives us everything we possibly need to be used by Him. Let's look at verse 10 as we start to wrap this up. Still talking about Abraham. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. Think about those words there. If we just read that first part, right? If I just said, for Abraham was looking forward to the city with foundations and a great architect, we would be thinking earthly things. We'd be thinking, man, somebody that could build something great and the city that was great. But the key part for Abraham was he didn't want to be a part of any foundation. He didn't want to be a part of any inheritance if the architect, if the ultimate guide and leader of that project wasn't God. Can you imagine if we were like, you know what, if the world offered me this or this or this? I share with my teens all the time. I had a chance to do other things, and maybe they would have panned out, maybe they weren't. But at the end of the day, at 16 years old, I felt the call in the ministry. I felt the call to work with teens and to be used by God in the church. And that was 16, man. That's a long time ago. I've been now alive longer than, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's been a while, okay? And at 16 years old, he made that calling. And coming out of that calling, trust me, the temptations of more money, the temptations of bigger schools, the temptations of trying to do this, man. A job I had right before college that offered me the world. You're not going to make any money in ministry, Nate. What are you doing, man? Come, be my assistant. This head land developer, this guy had a huge project. He offered to let me move in his house and buy me whatever car I wanted to not go to some little Christian school and to become an engineer with him, an architect, and take over this project. And let me tell you, at 17, 18 years old, you're ready to go off to a college that you're still going to be paying for in a long time, and you're told these things from the world about ministry. I would be lying to you if I wasn't like a little bit like, oh, wait, Lord, are you calling me to something different all of a sudden? Okay, God, I'm willing to go into ministry, but, this offer on the table is pretty sweet. Maybe that's where I'm supposed to go. But at the end of the day, man, you've got to stay faithful to God's calling. You've got to let Him orchestrate your life. Let me tell you, church, if we go by the ways of this world, and we go by every influence out there, and every opportunity out there, and every chance to do this or this, it's not all about money. You could be chasing, more free time. You could be chasing anything. But if it's not orchestrated and ordained by God, it's not going to lead you where you need to go. I promise you that. I had an opportunity yesterday to go, I think it's called Santee, South Carolina. Was that right? I think that's where I went. It's a long ways away. Never heard of it in my life. Driving over 2 hours to get there. And I was going there because in the Church of God structure, they have a credentials committee. And when you're called to ministry, and I did this, back in Hickory, and my license has expired, and I want to be ordained. I've just kind of been dragging my feet and haven't finished the process. And so I'm going in front of this credentials committee, okay? And I'm a little nervous. It takes a lot to get me nervous, to be honest with you. I'm pretty cool and easygoing with a lot of things, but you guys know my style. You know me. I'm not real, like, cookie cutter, so it's a little intimidating when you're going into something like a credentials thing where I'm thinking, oh man, I got to go in there and be this way or that way. I did dress a little nicer. I still kept it real, okay? But I, threw on a button-up shirt instead of a t-shirt, right? So I go in there and I'm kind of, you can ask Hope. Right before we went to go to sleep Friday night, I started like, Hope, you know what? I don't really know what's going to happen. And she's like, who are you? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm just starting to think about this and like, this is a big deal, and what if they ask me a question I don't know the answer to, or what if da-da-da? And she's like, in her sweet way, I don't remember exactly how she said, but it's something like this, shut up and go to sleep. So I was just like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I'm not ever bragging on myself, but this is what ended up happening. I go there, it's at this like inn restaurant, it's kind of like nice and stuff, and I go in there, I kind of know the people on the team, not really well. And I see them, and they greet me, and they just start interviewing me, man. What it is they just have to meet with these called pastors, whether you're an associate, youth, senior, whatever. But if you're called into ministry and want to be ordained to the Church of God, you have to go through a process. And so they basically want to meet with you and just make sure theologically things are on point, all this stuff. And so we're just kind of talking, and before you know it, man, what God told me is the same exact thing He told me about being here from day one and being in ministry from day one when I was in college. Was rely on God and be yourself. That's all we can do. Rely on God and be yourself, and He's got the rest if we'll be faithful to Him. And so I did that. And before you know it, and I'm not bashing our church whatsoever, but I like to be honest, If I gave them pastor numbers, we would have been a church of 200 with $1 million budget. Amen? Right. No, that's not real, right? So I told them, they said, well, tell me about your experience so far. Tell me what it's like going from, associate to lead, this and this. I said, I'll tell you what. I'm going to be real with you. We have had major moral failures. We have had major issues. We have had things. One of my best friends in ministry is resigning. This is all real. I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. If it does, sorry. But I said, I'm going to be honest with you, man. Our giving's down. Our attendance is lower than it has been a long time. Like, this is where we're at, but God, but I'm saying all this like with an excitement. And I'm saying all this with a smile on my face. And you have to understand, most Church of God churches are super, like, what's the right word? Like, traditional and kind of more like, you dress this way, or do this, or do that. And Lifespring's just a unique situation. It's an awesome church. But at the end of the day, I'm like, they're not going to like to hear all this. They want to hear that things are structured, this and this. But as I'm telling them all this, and this is where it comes to what we're preaching about, talking about today, is I said, but you know what? I have this air. I didn't use the actual word of excitement, but I said, let me tell you, our church is a work in progress, man. That's why God put this word on my heart today, that freedom brings progress. We are going where God has called us to go. And this is what happened. When I left, one of the guys there was the coolest 80-year-old man I've ever met in my life. Man, he's this 80-year-old, 50-year black preacher guy that's just so cool. And he's just talking and laughing with me, and we're cutting it up and this and this. And the interview goes really well. I'm like, loosen up, be myself. It goes great. They're like, man, we knew you were a Church of God material. You're the man. All this. I'm like, stop. Okay, keep going. But at the end of the day, they said, you know what, brother? And to me, I'm a young guy. But to them, which is pretty cool. To you guys, I'm old. But to these, like, 75-year-olds, they're like, you're just a young man. I said, keep saying that. But they said, you know what, brother? We know God's going to use you. And your excitement today has brought a joy to our lives that we are just so thankful for that. That to see a preacher, to see a pastor, to see a young man called to ministry, to come sit at this table and be excited about what God's doing. Even in the midst of transition, even in the midst of some question marks, even in the midst of this or that, to see a young man excited, they're like, I just can't thank you enough for that. And what hit me was, and this is what I'm going to end on today, is just like Abraham in Hebrews. Just like him, I know, making that move. Can you imagine getting the family, getting Sarah, getting the people, whoever went with him, all this stuff. And he's excited and he's ready, and they're kind of like, dude, do you realize you're leaving where you're comfortable? Do you realize you're going into a place that's really not known to be that great in Canaan? Don't you realize you got it made here, and you're going to live in tents, or probably downgrade, if you will, or whatever. And here's old Abraham, here's old Pastor Nate. Yeah, let's go. I'm so excited. God's doing such great things. And the reason why I could be excited in front of this team yesterday, the reason why Abraham could be excited is because all we're doing is trusting God and being obedient. And when you know that that's the case, your family life, your home life, your church life, every part of your life, when you take your fleshly desires and your fleshly way of doing things and put that aside and die to self and be open to Christ and live in Him, the freedom that comes with that, what that brings is a progress that can only be ordained by God. And you're going to move forward and you're going to be excited. Even when you get the bad news, even when life's tough, even when things hit you hard, it's not a fake joy. May I see some of you? Man, Lord forgive me. I'm going to keep it real. I always keep it real, but every once in a while I get real, okay? So, hold on. But I see so many people. I've done this 100 times. Maybe in the car, you can ask Coach. Maybe we're fighting about something. We get to the church. Hey! Hey! During worship, man. Tom Green. Oh, I love you. What's up, everybody? It's not a fake happiness. It's not a fake, we got to put a smile on, we got to get through work day or whatever. This excitement that I'm talking about is a joy that comes from being obedient to God that can only come from being obedient to God. This joy I'm talking about, I didn't have to fake a smile at that restaurant yesterday. I didn't have to fake anything. I kept it real with them. I told them where we're at as a church. I told them what I was excited about. And I was just myself. And because I have so much faith that God has taken us to great places. And I have so much faith that He has ordained each and every person that's here to be a part of that and to move forward and to grow. And whether it's a crazy 10-foot red-headed freaky thing waving that brings people in or whatever, God's going to use this church to do great things. Amen? Amen. So I just am saying, be obedient. Be like Abraham. You don't have to know all the circumstances. You don't have to even like all the circumstances. But at the end of the day, we must be obedient. We must be used by God and be willing to go. And the freedom that that brings, the progress that that takes us on, is absolutely incredible. Next week, we're going to continue Freedom Brings. And we're going to talk about freedom brings life. And this life that freedom brings, I'm not going to go ahead and preach that sermon yet. Stay tuned, come check it out. But at the end of the day, this progress that we're in, this work in progress, this thing that God's doing in our lives, ultimately in that time and even in that moment, it's a time of progress. It's going to bring this life that God has ordained for each and every one of us that is so incredible. And let me tell you, if I shared this a few weeks ago, if I didn't believe in Shane that he's going to continue to do great things, if I didn't know how awesome his wife is and how awesome his family is, I'd be begging him to stay. I'd be begging him, no, my flesh wants you to stay. At the end of the day, you got to do what God calls you to do. And so I'm going to do one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I'm asking you guys, putting on the spot. Shane is easy, come on up here. And we have a little something for you guys. This is nothing that compares to how much y'all have done and what you mean in this church. But oh no, man, have y'all seen my gnarly scar like scrape on here? Have you ever fallen downstairs into a baby gate? Anybody? Been there, done that, got the scars to prove it. This morning I said, man, can I pray? He's like, yeah, man, come here. And I'm like, God, we love you. Oh, so much. Does it hurt? Love hurts, amen. But it's not about my scratch on my back. It's about Shane. And we just, as a church, probably didn't get the card to every single person, but I know every single person who poured into that thing. To tell y'all how much we love y'all, and tell you how much we support you in your transition and in your move. And so we have a little something we're going to show you guys. If y'all want to just come on up and have a seat. I will. You're going to have to cry and then rock out. So get ready. Go ahead and kill those lights.
give me like one more BPM than that. No, one less. No, two more. No, two less. No, okay. Give me like 5. Give me like 95. Give me 95. No, 91. No, 122. 122, yeah. I think they did it 122. Yeah, just do a big slide, like, you know. Yeah, that's too many fills on the drum. Yeah, 4 on the floor. Just give me 4 on the floor. Do 4 on the floor. Yeah. No, I don't need that many fills. That's too many fills, dude. Just 4 on the floor, man. Straight. Less is more, man. Less is more. Yeah, you play the bass, like, yeah, we're not really going for the spot. You know, we're not playing fun. Straight, you know. Yeah, just use some pads, so just stick on the beat for like 10 minutes. Just hold that beat pad like 10 minutes and I'll come on in. Yeah, I really want you to do it the way that you hear in the recording. It's really important that you come to that. Yeah, awesome. There you go, man. Good job. Yeah, just do you can feel like, yeah, just like a not like, you know, but like, cool. Alright guys, I know we practiced like an hour on the song, but I'm going to change the key. I'm going to go down a little bit. Rehearsal starts at 8. No, it's 8:35. No, we're here already. You're not here, we're starting at 9. No, if you're not here, we're starting at 9. We're starting at 9. Hey guys, when I do this, it's a chorus into a bridge. Remember the signs behind that. You see me do this? Just keep going. Okay? It's really important to watch for my signs. We know the spirit leads from my signals. And where is the bass player today? Alright, where's the drummer? Can you just lay back a bit, just like in the pocket? I mean, just kind of play the pocket. I don't really know what it means, but I know that. Yeah, he played like 30% less. Yeah, he wants us to lay back on the volume a little bit. Pastor, yeah. I had some complaints last week about volume being a bit loud, so let's get it careful. No, I really like the hook in the song, but is it like, I don't know if it's like saying what we needed to say. It's just important, you know, I really wanted to say what we wanted to say. So. Just the voices. Okay, just the girls sing the song. Alright, just the guys, you ready? Alright, just the drums. I just feel like Sloppy McKiss is more artistically accurate and honest. I don't want to just like take that away from me. Totally hit these notes on Thursday. I don't know what's going on right now. Sing it one last time. Let's sing it again. Let's sing it one last time. Lift your voices. I like your keys and just let's just let the track do it. Yeah, so just do an octave slide. Do an octave slide this. Like that. Okay, it's dot, dot, no dot, dot, dot.
Lift up our hands, for the joy of the Lord is our strength. We bow down and worship Him now. How great, how awesome is He, and together we sing. Everyone sing.